Rain lashed against the windows, wind howled through the ancient oaks. Inside, dust motes danced in the pale moonlight, filtering through grimy panes. John, a young journalist drawn by local legends, stood on the threshold of Blackwood House. It loomed before him, a Gothic monstrosity, its silhouette stark against the stormy sky. John shivered despite the mild night. The air felt heavy, burdened with unseen things. He took a deep breath, the scent of damp earth and something else, something akin to decay, filling his nostrils. He stepped inside, the floorboards groaning in protest under his weight. The air inside was stale, thick, with the silence of ages. It felt as though time itself had forgotten this place, leaving it to decay and solitude. Cobwebs draped the furniture like ghostly shrouds, remnants of a time long past. Each piece of furniture seemed to tell a story of neglect and abandonment. John wandered from room to room, each one echoing with an emptiness that seemed to press in on him. The walls, once vibrant with life, now stood as silent witnesses to the passage of time. He could hear the wind whistling through unseen cracks, a mournful, lonely sound that seemed to carry the whispers of forgotten memories. The house seemed to breathe with a life of its own, each gust of wind a sigh of its ancient soul. A floorboard creaked above him. John froze, listening intently. Silence, the kind of silence that felt heavy, almost tangible, as if the house itself was holding its breath. He continued his exploration, a sense of unease growing within him. Every shadow seemed to move, every sound amplified in the oppressive quiet. The house was a labyrinth of memories, each corner hiding secrets long forgotten. He could have sworn he saw a shadow flicker at the edge of his vision, heard a whisper brush past his ear. It was as if the house was trying to communicate, to share its sorrowful tales with him. He shook his head, attributing it to the house's unsettling atmosphere, yet deep down he couldn't shake the feeling that he was not alone, that the shadows and whispers were more than just figments of his imagination. As he moved deeper into the house, he found an old, dusty photograph on a table. The faces in the picture seemed to stare back at him, their eyes filled with stories of a time when the house was full of life and laughter. The photograph depicted a family, their smiles frozen in time. John wondered what had happened to them, what had led to the house's current state of desolation. He placed the photograph back on the table, a sense of melancholy washing over him. The house was a mausoleum of memories, each room a tomb of forgotten moments. John walked towards the staircase, each step on the creaking stairs echoing through the empty halls. The journey upwards felt like a descent into the past, each step taking him deeper into the house's history. As he reached the top of the stairs, he placed his hand on the banister, feeling the worn wood beneath his fingers. It was smooth, polished by years of use, a stark contrast to the decay that surrounded him. He looked down the dark hallway, a sense of determination in his eyes. He was here for a reason, driven by a need to uncover the secrets that the house held within its walls. With each step, the floorboards creaked beneath him, the sound a constant reminder of the house's age and the weight of the memories it carried. John knew that whatever he found here, it would change him forever. He found the caretaker, a stooped old man named Silas, in the kitchen, hunched over a flickering lantern. The dim light cast eerie shadows on the walls, making the room feel even more foreboding. Silas had been the caretaker of the old mansion for as long as anyone could remember, his presence as much a part of the house as the creaking floorboards and dusty chandeliers. Silas looked up, his face a mask of wrinkles etched deep with years and worry. His eyes, though clouded with age, held a sharpness that belied his frail appearance. It was as if he could see right through John, piercing into his very soul. He spoke in a raspy voice, each word a struggle. "You shouldn't be here. Not after dark," he warned, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and urgency. The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken dread. John tried to question him, but Silas just shook his head. 8 minutes, he muttered, more to himself than John. The cryptic statement only added to the growing sense of unease that had settled over John since he entered the mansion. "They say you have 8 minutes," Silas continued, his voice barely above a whisper. He refused to elaborate, his gaze distant, haunted. It was clear that whatever he was referring to, it was something that terrified him to his core. John, though frustrated, decided to heed the old man's unspoken warning. He wouldn't stay long. The mansion, with its dark history and eerie atmosphere, was not a place to be trifled with. As he turned to leave, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, that unseen eyes were following his every move. The caretaker's warning echoed in his mind, a chilling reminder of the dangers that lurked in the shadows. He glanced at his watch. He had been inside for 5 minutes. A strange compulsion to leave seized him. He turned to go, his steps hurried now, a sense of dread coiling in his gut. The house seemed to press in on him, the shadows lengthening, deepening, taking on menacing shapes. The temperature plummeted. John's breath formed frosty clouds in the air. He could hear the blood pounding in his ears, his heart hammering against his ribs. He had to get out, now. He broke into a run, his footsteps echoing through the silent house. As he raced down a hallway, a sound stopped him in his tracks. His heart pounded in his chest, echoing the eerie silence that enveloped the old house. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly, shadows dancing on the walls as if mocking his fear. A soft thud, like a footstep coming from the attic above. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but unmistakable. The sound sent a shiver down his spine, a cold reminder that he was not alone. He hadn't been up there. He slowly looked up at the ceiling, his blood turning to ice. The thought of someone or something lurking above him was almost too much to bear. His mind raced with possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. The attic door, which had been closed earlier, now stood ajar. The darkness beyond it seemed to beckon him, a silent invitation to uncover its secrets. The door creaked slightly as if whispering his name. He felt a chill crawl down his spine. Curiosity warred with fear. His instincts screamed at him to run, to leave the house and never look back. But something held him there, rooted to the spot. He knew he should leave, but something drew him towards the attic door. It was as if an invisible force was pulling him closer, urging him to uncover the mystery that lay beyond. He couldn't explain it, but he had to see what was inside. His hand trembled as he reached out, the cold wood of the door sending a jolt through his body. He hesitated, his mind a whirlwind of fear and anticipation. Taking a deep breath, he slowly reached out and pushed the door open. The hinges groaned in protest, the sound echoing through the empty house. As the door swung open, darkness greeted him, an abyss of unknown horrors. He stepped forward, his heart pounding louder than ever, ready to face whatever lay within. The attic was dark, filled with a thick, suffocating darkness. The musty scent of decay was overpowering. John fumbled for his lighter, the small flame doing little to pierce the oppressive gloom. As his eyes adjusted, he saw shapes emerge from the shadows. Old furniture, discarded toys, covered mirrors. And then he saw it. In the center of the room, a rocking horse swayed gently back and forth as if pushed by an unseen hand. The sight sent a shiver down John's spine. He knew then, with chilling certainty, that he was not alone. He spun around, his heart pounding in his chest. He had to get out, had to escape the suffocating terror that had him in its grip. But as he turned towards the door, he found it shut tight. He rattled the handle, but it wouldn't budge. He was trapped. Panic surged through him, cold and sharp. He threw himself against the door, but it wouldn't give. He was trapped in the attic with whatever was responsible for the rocking horse's eerie movement. A low growl echoed through the attic, seeming to come from the shadows themselves. John's blood ran cold. He backed away slowly, his eyes darting around the room, searching for the source of the sound. He caught a glimpse of movement in the corner of his eye. A figure, tall and skeletal, with eyes that glowed an eerie red, emerged from the darkness. Its long, sharp claws scraped against the wooden floor, sending shivers down John's spine. He was paralyzed with fear, unable to move, unable to scream. The creature lunged. John screamed, a primal scream of terror that echoed through the old house. Then silence. The only sound was the creaking of the rocking horse as it slowly rocked back and forth in the suffocating darkness of the attic. The 8 minutes were up.